All right, welcome to the Warrior in a Garden podcast brought to you by Synergy Coaching and Wellness. Today we're going to continue on with our self-mastery series. This will be the third installment of the self-mastery series. And today we're going to talk about maximizing your personal energy. As we know, and as we should know, life requires energy. In order to be successful and fulfilled, you have to be able to maximize your energy. If you look around the world and you look at highly functional people, the one common denominator amongst all of them is going to be really high levels of energy. And everybody's capable of that. And we're going to kind of explore a little bit about that today, and we're going to look at some things that we can do to impact your personal energy, and some strategies that we can utilize to help you increase your personal energy. One thing to think about as we go through this discussion today, you are surrounded by energy. You're surrounded by positive energy. You're also surrounded by negative energy. The interesting thing is that you are in complete control of how you manage your personal energy. So you can kind of pick and choose, what types of energy you're going to bring into your life. You can pick and choose things that you can do within your life to kind of help increase and expand your capabilities of high energy. We're going to talk about 5 specific things today that can really impact your energy on a day-to-day basis and long-term. As you know, we'll start with the number one item. And if you listen to, our Synergy Coaching and Wellness podcasts and some of our videos that we do on the Synergy Coaching and Wellness side, you're going to see that longevity is a really big aspect of what we do. And one of the major aspects of that also tie into energy. And that's going to be, a heightened level of health and wellness. Coupled with that, the next item is we're going to talk about daily habits. What type of daily habits can you institute that will help increase your daily energy levels? We're going to talk about things that you fixate on that maybe are outside of your control, and things that can definitely drain your energy. We're going to talk about people. The people in your life can have a huge impact on your energy levels. You've got people that will either buoy you up and kind of help increase your energy levels, or you've got people that will constantly be bringing you down. And we want to be able to kind of look at our lives and look at the people that we surround ourselves with and decide, is that person really helping me in a positive way? Or is that person kind of a drag on my existence? And then what do we do about that? So we're going to talk about that a little bit. And then finally, this kind of seemed like an oxymoron, but learning to be still will help create positive energy and will help create energy within your life. So those are going to be the 5 things that we're going to discuss in today's podcast, and how these 5 aspects of your life can really help maximize the energy that you bring to bear every day. So as always, if you're watching this on YouTube, please smash the like button and subscribe to the Synergy Coaching channel, and also follow the Warrior in a Garden podcast. We're actually located on Spotify for the podcast, and our YouTube channel is Synergy Coaching. Certainly look us up there, hit a like, subscribe. Would love to have you guys subscribe, and as you subscribe, we can set you up to where you get notification of all of our podcasts that come up. So thanks in advance for that. So the first aspect that we wanted to talk about today is creating and maintaining a proper level of health and wellness. it doesn't matter where you are on that spectrum right now, because you can make a change today and start moving that in a positive direction, and you'll immediately see an increase in your energy and the amount of energy that you bring to bear every day. And obviously, the more energy that we bring, the more we're going to be able to accomplish on a daily basis. So let's just start with the first aspect of health and wellness. And if you've watched the Synergy Coaching and Wellness, the longevity series that we're doing with those videos and with those podcasts, we talk about health and strength and fitness as one of the primary drivers for longevity. But it's more than just longevity. A high level of fitness, and not even a high level, but an improving level of fitness, can certainly go a long way to creating really high levels of energy in your life. If I were to tell you to do one thing on a daily basis, I would say pick out an exercise regimen. And you can look at some of our other podcasts and some of our other videos to kind of look at what we're talking about when we look at what that looks like. From a longevity point of view, we look at cardiorespiratory fitness and especially VO2 max. Those things will certainly increase your energy levels. And you also look at strength and the musculature that you increase and build within your body. Those are huge factors for energy and huge factors for longevity. The interesting thing about exercise is that it actually creates energy, and it creates higher levels of energy. I know it seems odd because you get up, you go to work, you've worked an 8, 10, 12-hour day, whatever you've done, and when you get home, the last thing that you want to do is do more. So a lot of people take that mentality and they miss their training. They miss doing exercise. And the odd thing about that is if you take an hour out of each day and create some sort of an exercise regimen, you'll find that doesn't diminish your energy. It actually will increase your energy. So before you sit down on a couch, maybe even before you get home, if you can join a gym or go by a gym, get your workout in. You're going to find that movement and that increasing your fitness level and your strength level, you're going to find that creates just a ton of energy in your life. The second thing, when we talk about our health and wellness, we want to talk about nutrition. Nutrition is really important too, because a lot of the drain that you have on your energy levels certainly comes from poor nutrition. And truthfully, we're going to look at two specific factors. We're going to look at what we eat, and then we're going to look at when we eat. And I want to talk a little bit. I'm going to talk a little bit about insulin resistance first and foremost, because that's one of the things that hardly ever gets talked about or ever gets looked at, but could well be one of the number one drivers for just multiples of just different illnesses and wellness issues that people have. And that all stems primarily from the type of diet that we eat as Americans and as Westerners. We tend to eat a lot of processed foods. We tend to eat really high carbohydrate type foods, and then we eat, multiple times a day. And insulin resistance is, I'm going to simplify this. Some of our other podcasts, we've talked about it more in depth, but basically every time you eat, okay, especially if you eat like a high carb meal, your body creates sugar, all right? And it's those sugar spikes force the body to release insulin, okay? So in order for energy to get into the cells, the insulin has to help it through the door, okay? Well, what happens over a period of time, and as we continually spike our sugar levels in the blood, the cells kind of throw their hands up and say, wait, I've got plenty, okay? So then they start pushing back, and they don't accept the insulin, and they don't accept the blood sugars. And when that happens, this sugar and this insulin, it has to go someplace, and it typically gets stored as fat. And it doesn't get stored as a healthy, usable fat, or at least readily usable fat. So when you see people that tend to gain weight, and we look at obesity as an illness, okay? They talk about the obesity epidemic. I kind of have the sense that obesity is more of a symptom than it is actually a disease. So we tend to treat the wrong thing. And what we want to do is we want to treat insulin resistance. And we do that by, number one, which is the first item that we're going to talk about, with the what we eat part. But then we're also going to talk after that about the when we eat part of this equation. So when we talk about what we eat, we've been told for our entire lives about this food pyramid, that the government's put out, and at the very bottom of this thing is all the grains and cereals and bread, and that's like the main staple of the American diet. And the truth of the matter is that probably is way overdone. It's not to say that we don't and shouldn't have grains in our diet. We should. But I think that we have way too many grains in our diet. Grains, and especially processed breads, are probably some of the worst things you can eat, because it's super duper high and creates super high spikes in your sugar in your blood. And we eat that constantly, and these continual spikes leads to insulin resistance, which leads to a lot of different diseases. And we want to stay away from that. So processed foods, especially breads and grains and different things like that, processed oils within our food, really bad for us. We need to eat like really fresh vegetables that are not overly cooked and not cooked in saturated oils and things of that nature. And we need to eat more meat. If you're a vegan, you can choose different protein sources, but healthy fats are really important too, because we've been told for so long that we want a fat-free diet. Well, that's not true. Your body actually works better with fat as we ingest it than it does with the carbohydrates. It's a simpler process for the body to utilize those. So, don't run away from the fats. You can get healthy fats, and if you're a vegan, things like avocados, and there's some other ways to get it. But, the idea of not having a high-fat diet is not necessarily as evil as we once thought. So, healthy foods, whole foods, especially, try and stay away from the processed foods. Stay away from your sugars. Sugars are really bad on your energy, as we all know, because you get that sugar spike and that sugar high, and then you tend to crash shortly thereafter once that energy dissipates. Caffeine, minimize your caffeine intake, because that can cause the same kind of spikes in your energy. And if you focus on those things and what you're putting into your body in that way, I think that you're going to find a huge uptick in your energy, especially after maybe the second week, as the autophagy of your body begins to clear out all of the negative cell growth and start replacing it with new healthy growth, and weight loss, and you'll find that you will lose weight. So then it brings us to the next thing, is when we eat. I've become a huge fan of time-restricted feeding. And the reason that I am a fan of time-restricted feeding is, I've grown up in the fitness industry my whole life, from the time that I was in high school and started training so that I could become a college athlete. And, I've remained an athlete my whole life. For the better part of my life, it's been multiple small meals throughout the course of the day. And as I've gotten older, and I'll just share with you, when I hit kind of my mid 40s, I kind of went through a period to where I was fit but fat, and even into my 50s. I was able to still ride my bike. I can go out and do a 100-mile bike ride. I was playing soccer, on a men's team, a traveling men's team. I was doing triathlon, and I started gaining weight, and I just couldn't understand why I was gaining weight, and as it turns out, because my metabolism was naturally slowing a little bit because of my age, it was slowing more because of my eating habits and how I was eating, and because I had developed, a certain level of insulin resistance. And so what I did was I decided to change the way that I approached my food intake. So instead of eating multiple small meals each day, I started living a life of intermittent fasting. And you can pick and choose how you want to do it if you choose to go this route. But basically what intermittent fasting is you have like a feeding window, and then you have a long fast period within a 24-hour day, okay? I'm typically 16-8 or 18-6. That means that I can eat for 8 hours or eat for 6 hours, and then I don't eat for that larger window. A couple of things happen with that. Number one, I don't eat as many meals. So I basically, if I'm doing the 8-hour feeding window, like if I'm doing 16-8, I'll eat 3 meals, but there'll be 3, relatively small meals. If I'm doing the 18-6, then I'm doing 2 meals. And because I'm doing those, I don't have like these continual spikes in my blood sugar, and my body's able to manage that sugar intake and sugar creation a lot more efficiently. And then I've got like this long span overnight that allows for my body to really cleanse itself, and kind of opens a window for what's called autophagy. And what that does is it's literally defined as the body feeding on itself, which sounds like that might be unhealthy, but it's actually healthy because the body's going to feed on things that are not worthwhile to have within your body, and then it gets replaced with healthy new growth. So that's what kind of one of the things that we're looking for. So anyway, so that's why we would look at when we eat. Those two factors. If you intermittent fast or eat less, like fewer times throughout the course of the day, and have like a longer gap between your last meal of the day and your first meal of the next day, you'll find that your energy levels are going to skyrocket, and you're going to have tremendous health benefits that go along with that. And then finally, proper rest and recovery. Sleep is really important. And when we talk about sleep, it's not always the 8 hours of sleep that you traditionally think of. It's getting the proper kind of sleep. I don't get 8 hours of sleep. I can't even remember the last time I slept 8 hours. But I go to bed pretty much the same time every night, and I get up pretty much the same time every day. And my body's in a nice sleep routine. And I actually track all of these things. I track my sleep on my Garmin and on my Whoop. These are wearables that kind of help track a lot of my recovery and some other things that, I've talked about in some of my other podcasts. But I track my sleep, and I know not only how long I've slept, but it'll tell me how much of that is dream sleep, how much of that is deep sleep, and those are your restorative sleep phases of the night, and then the rest of it would be considered like light sleep. And it's important as well, but the restorative sleep is critically important. And you need to know, how you're doing on that so that you can track it, and know whether you're doing better each day. You can see when you've had a bad night's sleep, and you can kind of look at maybe what caused that, from the night prior. Did you drink some coffee late in the day that may have caused it? So you can help adjust your behaviors based upon what you're tracking. So that becomes really important. But when you get proper sleep, you certainly are going to be more energetic as the day goes on. I will throw in, alcohol consumption and some other types of bad habits can really throw off your sleep and can really throw off your recovery, specifically, your heart rate variability, which that's a different topic altogether, but it's really critically important when it comes to recovery and your energy. So be mindful of those things. I'm not saying if you like to have a glass of wine, there's certainly nothing wrong with that, but just be aware of the impact that it has on your body. Okay. And you'd be shocked. If you started measuring, especially like your recovery and your HRV, which I get those numbers from my Whoop strap, just the impact that even a glass of like one bourbon can have on your HRV and your recovery. So anyway, so that's important stuff to know and important stuff to track. And then finally, I work with a lot of athletes, and I have worked with professional athletes and really driven and motivated people when it comes to their training. And the one thing that they always need to guard against is overtraining. Recovery is critical. So if you do start a training regimen, fatigue is going to be there, and you cannot do hard training every day on end. The body gets tired, and there's a lot of different things that, if you worked with us at Synergy, or, if you worked with us through, the Jade Dragon programs that we have, the recovery part of things is really important, and we coach that and we teach that. So recovery from training is something that you need to be aware of and is really important as well. So proper level of health and wellness, critically important. And once you get this one thing done, if there was one thing to do, I would say get your fitness house in order, get your strength house in order before you do anything else. Then the next thing you'll want to add is you want to add in your diet and the way you go about and the way you look at and utilize food. That would be the next biggest thing to do. Those two things really will spike your energy levels super high. And then finally, make sure that you're getting good solid sleep. Take care of the rest part of what you do. So next up is like proper daily habits, okay? And so when we talk about proper daily habits, what are we talking about? We're primarily talking about, how do you approach each day? What's your plan for each given day, and how are you going to fit all of this stuff in, right? How are you going to make it work? What's the routine going to be? So we talked about the important aspects of your wellness venture, your fitness and wellness journey, and physical training is part of it. So when do you fit that in? What kind of schedule are you going to make? What is that going to look like, and what do you want to do with it? So we at Synergy, and especially with the Jade Dragon Nagong School, we look at physical training and Kung Fu work. Every day should include some sort of a physical regimen, even on your recovery days, even if it's just, taking a 30-minute walk, 15-minute walk. The body needs to move every day. So every day needs to include a fitness regimen. And that doesn't mean that you even blast yourself on every day, and probably not even maybe only once or twice a week. Okay, so even if we're doing a VO2 max workout, which VO2 max workouts, when you really elevate your heart rate and elevate your cardiorespiratory response to things, those are really hard work days, and you need to have those once your doctor says it's okay, or once you've done a significant amount of time training in zone 2, which is like a base building period of cardiorespiratory fitness. You don't do that every day. Doing that type of work every day becomes counterproductive, and then it becomes a drain on your energy, because it'll wear you out, and you don't want to do that. So you certainly don't want to overtrain, and you don't want to blast yourself in training. One thing that we really promote with Synergy Coaching and with Jade Dragon, obviously, because as a martial artist, you certainly want to have a strong but supple body. We are really focused on the Yi Jin Jing, which it's the body changing classic. And the whole idea behind that is that we want to create a strong but lean, supple body that allows for energy to flow through it very easily. And it becomes a very efficient body, very efficient, and doesn't require a lot of energy in order for the body to go through its functions. And so that's a big part of what we teach. That's a big part of Qigong work, Tai Chi, yoga, different internal arts like the Bagua. The whole idea behind that work, if it's traditional, its foundation is going to be in the Yi Jin Jing, and that's a really important part of what we teach. And we teach people how to create that strong but supple, energetic body, and that's really important. And it creates super high levels of energy on a day-to-day basis, but not nervous energy. It's like this really subdued, persistent, positive energy. That also ties in with breath work. So a lot of the internal work that we do and the internal work that we teach people with Qigong work and the Dao Yin work is breath work. And we also teach meditation. We'll talk a little bit more about meditation here shortly, but meditation is a great way to kind of remove yourself from the mayhem of the world. You're constantly bombarded with input, and meditation is a method to kind of remove yourself from that for just a little while. And then there are techniques that help you with mindfulness, and with mindfulness, your focus goes inward, and it can really, really do some amazing things with kind of peeling away, some baggage, emotional baggage, and different things that you carry with you from a day-to-day perspective. And it kind of helps you minimize your angst, and that really helps improve your energy levels. And then finally, we talked about proper sleep just a few minutes ago. You need to have a routine for that. If you're going to bed at different times every day, and waking up at different times every day, there's what's called circadian rhythms that your body has to live within. We just went through daylight savings time. This is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Even that hour swing in daylight savings time wreaks havoc on people, because because of that hour change, that hour shift, it completely throws people off of their circadian rhythms. And it just, like for me, it destroys my energy for a couple of days. Even if I try and plan for it and I know it's coming, and I'll try and ease myself into what the next shift is going to be. It's a hard thing. And like there's scientific evidence of how detrimental it is to people's health. I mean, when you look at daylight savings time, I think I read someplace it's like a 14% increase in heart attacks and stress-induced type events within people's lives. In the following days after a daylight savings time. So those types of you need to know this, and you need to have a routine for your sleep every day, because if you go to bed at the same time every day and you wake up at basically the same time every day, your body gets into a rhythm, and that rhythm is really healthy. It's really healthy, especially if you're tracking your sleep and you know that you're getting the proper, usually it's about 30% of restorative sleep is a really good spot to be, and restorative sleep being the dream sleep and the deep sleep. If you do those, if you can have whatever number of hours you need, okay, and if that number is 8 hours, that seems to be a standard, although I wouldn't lock yourself into that, because everybody's sleep needs are a little bit different. But if it's 8 hours, 30% of that should be in REM sleep and deep sleep, and the rest of it in light sleep is fine. And you'll find that you're in a really positive routine, and that will really help you create energy to go through your life on a day-to-day basis. So what we've covered some really bedrock type ideas in things that can help increase your daily energy. If you make those changes, you're making changes to your physiology. The addition of mindfulness with meditation is certainly a little bit different. And we'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a minute. But when we look at the first two things we've discussed, those things are real. Those things are tangible. And making those changes in your life can really, really impact the amount of energy that you carry to things on a day-to-day basis. The next couple of items that we talk about are probably going to be a little bit more intangible, but certainly realistic. All right, so one of the things that we deal with is people have a tendency to fixate on things that are outside of their control. And when we do that, it really makes it creates anxiety and angst within our lives, which creates like a lot of nervous energy, which is not healthy energy at all. We want to stay away from that type of nervous energy. So some of the things that I'm talking about that we're looking at is, like, especially we're constantly bombarded by media and all of the bad news in the world and social media, world events, right now we've got so many things going on in the Western world and the world in general right now. There's a war in Europe right now between Russia and Ukraine, and the impact that has globally. The Western world is definitely dealing with inflation. It doesn't matter. We're in America and our inflation rates are ridiculous right now, but I know that they're going through a lot of the same things in Europe. And it just seems like it's just one thing after another, after another, after another. And the reality of it is you don't have any control over those things. And it is a tremendous waste of your daily energy to stay focused on those things. And, we live in this activist society right now. And, activism is good to a point, but from a wellness perspective, too much activism when you don't have your own house in order is probably not a good thing at all. And it doesn't create very much positive energy in any way, shape, or form. So to get too engaged with things that certainly are not within your sphere of influence is certainly not a positive thing to do, especially long term. So, live within yourself, and you'll find that your approach to life becomes a lot different, and your energy level becomes a lot higher. And I would just minimize your media and screen time, like cell phones, and there could well be one of the worst things that have happened to humanity. I mean, people they live on their phones, and it becomes an all-consuming thing, and there's not a whole lot of positivity that comes out of it. Most of the time, instead of being on a social media platform, unless you're watching us on YouTube, it's probably not one of the better ways for you to engage your time. So, try and minimize your time. Everybody wants to be on Facebook. Everybody wants to visit with friends on Facebook, and I get that. There's certainly, you can gain benefit from being on YouTube, if you're learning things as you go along. So that's fine. You don't need to do away completely with social media, but you certainly need to minimize your screen time. It's alarming how much screen time people actually spend. So, don't overemphasize the events of the world. There's a story that I think one of my first teachers told me. There are things that are in your control and things that are out of your control, and you don't really know. When these things happen in your life, you don't really know if it's going to be for positive or if it's going to be negative. And there was we'll call it a fable, I guess. It was a story from a Chinese farmer and his son. They had a farm, had a couple of horses, and one night storm blew in and blew the barn doors open, and the horse ran away. And the next day, all the villagers came around, and it was coming right up on harvest time. And it was, all the neighbors were like, oh no, they were, bemoaning the fact that this farmer had lost his horse. They weren't going to have the horse for helping with the harvest, and just all the bad things that could happen. How horrible this is for you. And the farmer is a very wise man, looked at all the people and he was like, good, bad, who knows? We'll see. So, 3 or 4 days later, the horse came back and had brought with him, 4 other horses from the wild. And the neighbors came by and they were like, oh, you're so fortunate. This is so good for you. You're so blessed, so lucky. And then the farmer looked at him and he was like, yeah, good, bad, who knows? Time will tell. So the people left. And then the farmer's son, as he was trying to break one of the horses so that it was serviceable, fell off the horse and broke his leg. And again, this was right up on harvest. And the villagers came by and they were like, oh no, this is so bad for you. What are you going to do? How are you going to harvest the fields by yourself? You don't have your son to help you. This is so bad. And the farmer, again, being wise, good, bad, who knows? We just don't know. And then the next day, the army came through and they were taking all of the kids, all the young men, and subscripting them into service to go fight the wars. But they didn't take the farmer's son because he had a broken leg. So the moral of that story is that we can become too wrapped up in what we look at, what's positive and what's negative, and the reality is we don't really know. Time will play these things out. So you don't want to get too fixated on the things that are outside of your control. You just want to kind of manage through them. And that's one of the aspects of self-mastery that we always look at. So that's certainly an important thing. So like I said, just don't become overly engaged with things that you don't have control over. So here's this one's kind of going to be a little bit different, but it's really important. There was an old adage about you can't fly with the eagles if you run around all night with the turkeys or something like that. I can't remember. It's something like that. But the idea is that, you're going to rise to the level of the people that you surround yourself with. And it's amazing, like when it comes from an energetic point of view, just how important the people in your life are. They're going to have a tremendous influence on you. They'll either raise you up or they can bring you down. And you want to surround yourself with people that are a positive influence on your life. People that are going to, kind of raise you up, instead of bring you down. So it's pretty easy to figure out who those people are. But, I would suggest that you take a few moments and kind of take stock in, the people that you surround yourself with, but more importantly, the people who you allow to have influence on you. It would be really important for you to take an assessment of that and kind of figure out, is this person moving me forward in the world, or is this person bringing me down, and is this person a negative influence in my life? And it's important to take stock of that. And I'm not saying cut ties 100% with people that have been your friends for a long time. In a lot of ways, you can make a positive change in their life once you make a positive change in your life. And I think that's probably the best case scenario, but it's important that you recognize the influence that people have on you and, what direction they're taking you. Are they taking you in the right direction? Are they taking you in the wrong direction? And if they're taking you in the wrong direction, can you turn them around and kind of bring them back? And maybe you become a positive influence on them. I think that looking at these relationships that you have with people and looking at, how you're moving people forward, not just how they're moving you. My main focus on this would be you taking control, because that's what self-mastery is all about anyway, is you taking control of your life and of the direction that you want to carry your life forward. And certainly your influence on your friends and their influence on you ultimately have control over that. But that starts with an assessment. Take an assessment of the people who are most influential in your life and make a choice. Are they moving you in the right direction? Are they really helping you become the best you that you can possibly be? And if not, then reevaluate how you want that relationship to work. What's it going to look like in the future? But make sure if you make that assessment that it needs to change, then you need to drive the change. Okay, and then finally, we had talked about kind of the oxymoron of being still and generating energy. And it's remarkable that when you take moments of and learn how to switch off or to sit still, to calm your mind, you'd be surprised at not just the amount of energy that you generate as a person, but it's a proper type of relaxed, comfortable energy. And that should be a target for you. So, how do we do that? How do we take time to be still? How do we find a way to kind of switch off? And really the best way to do that is through breath work and meditation. We'll talk a little bit about the esoterics of energetics and Qigong and different things like that, but that's really like a high level type thing. We'll hit that at the end of this section. But just learning how to sit still, a peaceful mind generates energy. So there's a cathartic value to meditation. And the value of meditation can actually, there are doctors of neurosciences that will tell you that as you learn to meditate, and if you can create mindfulness, and if you can focus inward and kind of not be focused on the external you, you'll find that they've found that like emotions and there's like this removal of baggage. And so the ancients have known this for a long time, right? But there's science that backs up the value of meditation now. And so as you focus inward, you begin to peel back all these layers of time and emotional baggage and just things that you've carried with you for a long time that really create anxiety and angst. And you can kind of peel those things away. So there's a lot of cathartic value in meditation. It's hard to get there at first, because the minute that you sit down, the minute that you begin to meditate, it's just one thought after another, after another, after another, after another. And the ancients always called this the wild monkeys. And that's kind of what you have to battle when you first start meditating. When you first sit still, it's really hard to kind of go through all those. But you'll find over time and over practice that as you sit still and you focus, and there's a lot of different meditative types. I don't want to get into all that today. I'm going to do a podcast very specific to meditation, and proper ways to meditate. But there's a lot of different ways to meditate, and a lot of people have a lot of different ideas about it, and they're not, none of them are wrong necessarily. So, like I said, I don't want to get too deep into that, but when you first start, regardless of what method you're going to be using, you're going to have to deal with taming the wild monkeys, and that's learning how to minimize these thoughts that just rush through your head, and you kind of just let them go. They come, they go. They come, you let them go. They come, you let them go, and move on to the next thing. And you're kind of like I had mentioned before, you're just peeling away the layers of the onion, and eventually you'll get down to, a peaceful, true self. So that's a big part of the cathartic value of meditation. The other value is kind of immediate, and that's just a removal from the mania of daily life. It's just, there's so much input that we have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. It's crazy. Like we talked about social media just a few minutes ago. You got stuff that comes through on the TV, but if you live in an urban area, you can't even walk down the street without having just, hundreds of inputs, whether it be vehicles, people, just all of these inputs that are constantly, the mind absorbs those continually, and it becomes a huge issue. And it's a complete drain on your energy. And, we want to begin to minimize those things so that we can, create this really calming energy that really helps drive us through the course of the day. So that's the other aspect of being still that is an immediate benefit. It's just a time that you can just remove yourself from all of the daily garbage that goes on, and it's a time for you to just be mindful and focus inward. Like I said, I've got a meditation coming up very shortly, or I've got a podcast coming up very shortly on meditation, and we'll dive deeply into some of these things in that podcast. We talked about the science of Qigong and meditation. There's a lot of research on it now. I know Huberman's done a lot of neurological study on the value of meditation, and talking about, inward focus, and then this emotional inner release of all of this baggage that comes up. He's worked on it, and he can show it scientifically how that works. When you look at like the ancients and martial art teachers and Neigong teachers and Qigong teachers from from long ago, it's been kind of an esoteric practice, but it's never been understood scientifically, and we're starting to understand scientifically how this stuff really works and how important it really is. So kind of keep that in mind. It's another, meditation is very important, and the Qigong and the breath work certainly has benefits, but it also has physiological benefits as well, especially when you're doing Qigong work and Dao Yin work, and even like Tai Chi and Bagua and some of the other internal martial arts. It creates a lot of wellness and stability, strength, suppleness, so there's a lot of physiological benefit that's very apparent as we begin to do that type of work. And then finally, I'd mentioned there's an esoteric aspect to it. There's a part of this work that's not scientifically understood. And I certainly can't scientifically explain it to you. But when we look at like these ancient practices, when we look at Tai Chi, when we look at Qigong that's done in a very traditional way over a period of time and practice, and when we look at Neigong work that is working on the internal energetics of the body, the focus is on Qi. And, if you've listened to any of our podcasts, we've talked about Qi in the past. Qi is like the energetic force of our body. And as you're doing this type of Neigong work, the development, it's not really development of Qi. I'm going to back that up just a little bit. It is the understanding of and the cultivation of Qi, and then the ability to centralize it and move it and utilize it for energetic work, healing work within your body. And that's certainly true. I can tell you from experience that, it probably sounds, a little bit new agey. It's certainly not new agey, and we're at Jade Dragon, we're not into new age stuff. We're not into crystals and different things like that. But I can tell you from 30 years of practice that, the ability to centralize Qi and to move Qi and to use Qi as an energetic within your body and to create energy within your body is certainly a real thing. And it's one of the things that we teach. So that's another aspect that it's more advanced, and it's something that you don't overly need to concern yourself with, but in time you may want to explore. So anyway, so that's it about being still, the ability to be still, and just the incredible value that learning to be still has for you. Well, so if you've made it this far, I'm going to give you a quick recap of what we've covered today. Certainly appreciate you making it this far in the podcast. Also, if you would, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and we'll let you know when we have new content coming out. I try and get a podcast out weekly. I don't always hit that mark, but I certainly try. So anyway, so what we've covered today is, life requires energy. We talked about how important energy is to fulfill your life and to be successful in your life. We talked about how you're surrounded by positive and negative energy, and you get to choose what is going to influence you and your existence. It's best that you surround yourself with positivity. And then we talked about the things that impact your energy, things that you can do to take control of your own personal energy. And number one was your level of health and wellness. All right, that's of paramount importance. We talked about your daily habits, how you're going to go about arranging your day so that you can maximize your wellness, and your health, minimizing your fixation of things that are out of your control, taking an inventory of the people in your life, and kind of taking an assessment of are they helping you or are they hindering you, and then kind of deciding how you're going to make an adjustment with those relationships in order to create a more positive life for yourself and a higher energy life for yourself on that one. And then finally, learn how to be still. Learn how to sit still so that you can create, a more positive, energetic world for yourself. And, we talked in that especially about, creating a calm, powerful energy that is not kind of the fake energy that a lot of us carry in terms of anxiety and some of the other energies that are more of the fight or flight type energies, which are not overly healthy energies. You want good, solid, foundational energy and calm energy. So anyway, that's pretty much it. This is the third in the series, the Self-Mastery series. There's some really good takeaways in here and things that can help you be prepared. And, like I said, we'll have more podcasts coming out. I'm not doing straight 10 self-mastery podcasts. I'm kind of throwing some other things in the process. But this is number 3. I think the next one coming up is actually meditation. So we might do a deep dive in meditation. But I appreciate you guys spending the time with me today. And, be well, be healthy, and we'll talk soon. Thanks.